Kathy. We're glad you took some time and came to visit us tonight. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I would be looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
Want to give it a shot?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Very good. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
I believe that was 5-0, Gina. I am looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Seconded.
Any discussion?
Well,
Yes.
Go ahead. It's okay.
I should have came here early to talk with you ahead of time, but just to kind of clean up and wrap up what we had talked about the last time. Of course, the last time was Cindy and I's very first school board meeting.
Yes, it was.
So I just wanted to clean up a couple of items. One is on that board members' code of ethics. You know, last time we ended with, I just wanted a chance to read it and think that over. And I had that opportunity. Of course, I've had a full month. And I thought about writing my own, but I looked it over very carefully and I thought, well, some of the language that I was concerned about was actually rather vague, and so I could let that go. But I just wanted to put on the record when we're talking about board members' code of ethics. One thing that was missing from all of this was just that everything we do is to help the kids. And so as long as I just put that on the record, I'm going to go ahead and sign that. And so that will just put that to rest, so we don't have to think about that anymore. But I just wanted to clean that up from last week. And the only other thing I was just going to say was that last week I had the privilege of touring the high school with the vice principal, Brooke Webb, and I just wanted to say that was a great experience. Of course, I went to Middleton High School, but I hadn't been in the high school for years, right? And so just to go through and see all the classrooms and see what was going on, and we just marched right through a lot of classes, and it was really interesting. The one reason I wanted to bring that up was just to encourage all the board members to take, whatever time they can to see whatever facilities that are out there we can. I'm, like a lot of you know, I'm a farmer, so I can't understand what my crops need unless I see the crops, right? So I'm just very visible, very hands-on. So that was a really good thing. But that's all I have here, and I don't know who I get that
actually to Gina.
Gina, okay.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Anything else?
No. We'll do it.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
It's anonymous thing, anonymous, unanimous. All right, we have some discussion items. We will start with the good news story.
Turn that to Lisa.
Yes, go ahead, Lisa.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So each year, the State Department has a window where they review the graduation rate from the previous year. And so recently that closed and we were able to look at our results from last year. And so what we wanted to highlight tonight is our results and then kind of give you an idea of where that puts us in correlation to those around us and then also within the state. So, and just as a little history behind that. So the state has moved to a cohort graduation rate. So they take all students that enroll with us as freshmen and then follow them to their senior year. And so
Okay.
this percentage is of those freshmen who completed with us as seniors. And so this year, our overall number as a district is 92.3%,
Wow.
which puts us first in the SIC schools overall. And it's up from 88.2% last year as
Wow.
a district. And then within that number, The high school was at 95.7%, and then our academy was at 79.5%, which puts our academy as the second highest alternative school in the state for graduation rate. And
Hope
so,
Coachella got us by.
By a smidge.
so
That's
we
awesome.
thought now that those numbers are finalized, that would be a really good story to share, celebrate, and really talk about those students who accomplished that.
SAC schools, can you clarify SAC?
So
Southern Idaho
SAC schools
Conference.
would be the 9 schools in our conference.
Okay.
So we looked at it district-wide, so we looked at the district-wide number, and that was with West Ada, Boise, Mountain Home, Emmett, Kuna, Valley View, Caldwell, Nampa.
Nampa.
So in
And-
comparison to them, we're at the top of that list, and then the state average was 80%, so we're
I
about
was gonna
12
say,
percentage points.
And didn't
above
that
the
go
state
down?
average.
The state
The
average
state
went
average
down.
went down, yep.
Yay, good for
So,
us.
yeah,
Good job.
Yeah,
Thanks to our teachers.
But thanks to the staff. Amen.
a lot of hard work went into that, so
Yes,
we appreciate all their work on that.
thank you.
Yeah.
Next one, school board training.
Go ahead.
Okay, we were hoping that we could maybe in March meet at 4:30 and do a little training before our meeting. How do you guys feel about that? It would just be a longer meeting, but then we're not picking the 2 different dates.
And we'd actually set it up, the agenda would look like 2 meetings. You'd have
Yep.
a work meeting and then you'd have the actual regular board meeting.
How do you guys feel about that? Does
Fine for me.
that work?
Right.
Yep, it'd be the 14th of March.
4:30.
4:30?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right
Does that work for you? You gotta be somewhere. Are you going somewhere?
Might be.
You got a golf tournament?
But maybe not. No, I should be fine.
It's okay, we can make it work.
I should be fine.
I'll be planting weed, but what am I gonna do?
Yeah, there you go. Okay, are we good with that one? We can move on?
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the recommendation for the track bids.
Okay, so we did go through the full bid process, put out the bid. We'd received 2 and they were very similar to what had been given to us previously. And so my recommendation would be that you've seen those bids come through. One was in the 300,000s, one was in the 100,000s. And my recommendation would be that we go with the Track Doctor bid. The Track Doctor bid has 3 different options, and the high school has recommended the black track with the blue inlays. We can do, I mean, and their only recommendation for that is that the inlays make the transitions in a relay
Yes.
easier, better management of the track meets. You could do the full blue with some gray inlays. That would be that higher price though. And so the high school felt like it would be appropriate just for the lower price to do the black with blue inlays, but they have nothing against the blue, just that it was a higher cost.
And I'm sure they have probably UV stuff and with the UHMW that's in the rubber and stuff like that. Is it not? The only thing would be this black fade more than the blue.
That's a good
Quicker
question.
is one.
Right.
And then also heat.
Well, and
Yeah.
that's a big part of it. And so the high school is fine. They're fine with the blue. They were just trying to say, well, we don't need it to be the most expensive of those 3. But we
Right.
do have, and let me just touch really quick on the funding. We do have the funds to do this within the 410, which is money that was accumulated during the bonding process for the building of the high school, can only be used for maintenance of things there at the high school, fits within that scope. So we have the funds to do any of those 3. So if the board were to approve the blue, we could go with that blue. If the board were to approve the black with blue inlays, if the board wanted to approve and then let within that range, you could approve within the range of 143 to 170, and that would allow us to work through any of those specific questions and then make a decision on that.
I would be curious to know if the blue lasts longer, for one,
That's a good point.
over the black. as well as obviously, I mean, black's hotter than blue in a long shot. I mean,
Yeah.
now, I mean, our track season doesn't go to the heat of the summer,
Right.
but at the same time, do we get a bigger bang for our buck if it costs us another 40 grand, but we get
Last.
another 3 or 4 years or 5 years out of the track because it's blue?
Mhm.
That's well worth, 40 grand.
Yep,
Is it
So-
blue right now?
it's blue right now.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
So I had the opportunity during my tour to meet with the head track coach, Nicole. We also both went to NNU together, but, and we talked briefly about a couple of these issues. She was, and nobody here from the track coaching is here, but, she was a 4x100 runner, so she had to deal with these relay transitions a lot more than I did. I did like the 4x400 where we just had the one transition. But in my experience of, running high school and college track, the black is just a natural color of what it is recycled rubber from
Oh, yeah.
tires. So it didn't ever really fade. The blue might fade a little bit, but it actually gets worn out from the metal spikes
Right.
before it actually fades. She was fine with these proposals, and I asked her, is there anything, that you were concerned about with these proposals? And she didn't, as far as I recall, she's not really concerned either way. So I think even the less expensive one was fine with her, but definitely her only concern is just that we definitely go through and get the track resurfaced, which I agree with her, it needs to be done. And so, so I don't have a problem with either one, but I'm fine with just the black with the blue inlays. I think is a good compromise as far as I could see.
It is, but I kind of think I like Derek's point of that heat because black does hold. And I would
Yeah.
think just the heat maybe I would guess it would be built up to be durable, but
Well, in
I
running
like the blue though.
a lot of track meets, you have as many or if not more cold track days than you do have.
That is true.
You only
It's
have a
spring.
couple- You only have a couple of May that are really hot and the rest are just freezing cold.
That is true.
Yeah,
But it does get used in the summer. I mean, they do come in, the football teams there too, so.
So can we make a motion that pending some investigation on longevity of color and things like that, that we.
I think what the motion would need to be, would be up to the 170. If you said up to the 170, then it allows us to move forward with any kind of decisions that we make pending the answers to these questions.
Yeah.
And then if we were to decide on the 143, what would happen is I would go back and ask these questions and have that reviewed with our track folks. And then I would send that back out to you saying, here's their recommendations and are you good with that? Because as long as we say that up to that
Amount, then we're
170,
good.
you're good.
And will they come and do this soon?
Yeah, it'll be this summer.
Okay, good.
Summer. Well, it says free repaint in 3 years.
Yes.
Is that something that just happens or we ask
No,
for? it?
well, we are schedule it with them, but yes, that's something that would happen.
And their warranty is basically the 4-year.
Yeah. But it will last longer than the 4 years.
Okay.
Because it's how many years old
Because
is
Because
it
it's
now?
been almost 10.
Correct. So we expect more than 4 years before we have to do this again, but a warranty will only go that long as
Okay.
the 4 years.
I think it's 12 years.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It might be 12. I thought it was
Mm,
close to 10. I don't think they've done it since
2012.
they built it, have they?
2012 is when we started.
Was it 2012 when we started? It was my daughter's freshman year. Maybe it was 2011, 2012.
I think it was 12.
Either way,
Yeah.
11 years.
That's how I mark things.
Any other questions on the track? Obviously that action item will be later, but Okay.
Thank you.
perfect.
And now we're gonna have a presentation from the Idaho Youth
Yep.
Ranch.
And I'll just give the floor to Scott Curtis, and both he and Susan Bissett are here from the Idaho Youth Ranch.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. I should set my own timer here so I don't get Moving on here. I get excited about this stuff I'm talking about. Really appreciate being here, and as Superintendent Gee said, Susan Visser is here with me, and we're delighted to bring some information to you and answer questions that we have. So, Madam Chairman, members of the board, Superintendent Gee, we are involved in a pretty historic project for the state of Idaho, right here in Middleton. And our goal tonight is really to share with you some of the backdrop of that, 10-minute presentation, and hopefully have more conversations going forward. As well as if you have questions tonight, we're happy to answer them. So I do want to thank you. I was actually a high school math teacher and then a school social worker for many years. And a lot of the things you're going to hear me talk about, I really appreciate the work you all are doing for education. But in terms of the overall health of our kids, there is nothing more important than having caring adults, non-parental caring adults in their lives. And it's a protective factor. It's also what helps them overcome some of the biggest challenges that we see. So thank you for your support of so many folks being involved in the lives of kids. We're going to talk a little bit about who we are as the Youth Ranch and get a baseline of understanding there. A little bit about childhood trauma, which all leads to the reason why we're building Idaho Center for Healing and Resilience. And we're talking specifically about our education plan as we know it right now, so that you're informed and you can ask any questions. So again, thanks for having us here. We started in 1953. That's Reverend James Crow and his wife Ruby, 12 miles outside of Rupert, Sequa, if anybody's been down there, on a dirt road outside of Rupert. And they had the vision of taking young people who were struggling and a ranch lifestyle being healthy and healing for them. Again, that was 1953. Things looked a little different then in terms of what tough kids looked like. And they grew from there. So next slide. We have, now 70 years of history. And we are a statewide organization, one of the largest not-for-profits in the state. We provide residential care at our Hayes Shelter House. That is the only shelter in the Treasure Valley for unaccompanied youth. Provides about 3,000 shelter nights per year for kids who would otherwise be homeless, runaway, couch surfing, or in other crisis situations. We have we have outpatient therapy. I'm going to go down this list. We have outpatient therapy, including telemental health that we can offer in any county in Idaho. We have really 3 therapeutic headquarters. One's in North Idaho and Coeur d'Alene. One is in Boise, and the other one is here in Middleton at the new ranch. We offer outpatient therapy out at that location. One of our signature modalities is equine assisted therapy. It's not the majority of the youth. The majority of the youth are in traditional outpatient therapy, but we can offer equine assisted psychotherapy both here in Middleton as well as at our stables with our herd in North Idaho. We also offer adoption services. I've been in that since the early 80s. That's out of our North Idaho office. Career readiness, we do career training for youth ages 16 and over, including things like resume building, interview skills. We do that in the schools and in other locations. And we also provide internships in our retail operations and give youth training and mentors, and those are paid internships for youth. We have lots of alumni services we provide for youth that have been in our programs, and I'll save time by not talking about those things. And then some people are familiar with our thrift stores. We know we have one here in Middleton. You're probably aware that thrift store supports all of the services I'm talking about, but I hope you also know that the thrift store itself is an incredible mission location. It provides that youth training. Many folks don't know that. There are many people with special needs or job coaches that can come at work at the Youth Ranch thrift stores. We provide a free book to every child every time they come into any of our 24 stores across the state. And many other services happen through the thrift stores, not to mention recycling and using goods and providing low-cost opportunities for communities. So that's a background of us. And now let's talk a little bit more about what's going on. I don't think any of these stats would surprise you. You all are aware of the reality across Idaho. This is a biannual CDC study that talks about the things facing our youth. Lots of things going on with the kids of Idaho. By the way, I grew up here, absolutely love this state. And some of this stuff is hard for me to read because it wasn't my experience of life growing up in Idaho. So next slide. Some of you may be familiar with adverse childhood experiences or ACEs. This was a study started in the late 90s by the Center for Disease Control and basically looked at adults, 17,000 adults, and correlated adult outcomes in health and mental health with childhood experiences. We don't have time to go into all that. If you're interested, I can send you things, or you can also look this up. There's a wealth of information out there. Next slide. The adverse childhood experiences they looked at were these 10. Did you ever experience abuse of any kind, neglect, or household dysfunction? Things like having mental illness in the home or substance abuse or an incarcerated relative. The more of these ACEs a person has, the more likely they are to have negative life outcomes. They are not predictive though, and it's really important I mention it. Important I mention it with all these youth here. This stuff does not predict your future, right? But there are correlations and it's important for us to recognize it. Next slide. Idaho has some pretty startling numbers. These are raw numbers of kids in Idaho experiencing ACEs. I would draw your attention to the second from the bottom. Roughly 58,000 youth in Idaho live in a home with someone who has significant mental illness. When you combine all of these and look per capita, compared to Idaho across the country, next slide, there are only 5 states that have a higher rate of youth with 3 or more ACEs. And I think we all know that we're seeing this. We're seeing this in our suicide rate in Idaho, being top 5 in the nation. We're seeing it in our mental health crisis and the pressure on our systems. So enough background. I want to talk to you a little bit about what happens to young people that need help. A lot of great people, including people in the schools, are working to help these kids. And sometimes it's having a caring adult. Sometimes it's getting some counseling. Sometimes it's a group home. There are some youth, though, who need something more, and they need residential treatment. They need an opportunity for 4 to 6 months of really focused care for them, helping them learn the skills and their families learn the skills so that they can operate well in their home environment, in their schools, et cetera. Unfortunately, Idaho does not have accessible residential treatment. We do not have an accredited residential treatment program. What that means is if you're a youth, and particularly a youth on the lower income side of the scale, if you're on Medicaid, our Medicaid system has to send you to another state to be treated. So our state social workers and our Department of Health and Welfare, when they have a young person on their caseload and it's determined these other things haven't worked, they need residential care, they have to get on the phone and call a facility in Arkansas, or Georgia, or Texas, or California. And right now today, there's more than 120 kids on Idaho's Medicaid dime being treated in facilities all across this country. So what we are doing is building Idaho's residential treatment facility for kids here in your home community. So I'm gonna pause and let you see some images. I think this would be a good time to show the video. And for obvious reasons, we're calling this campaign Bring Idaho's Kids Home. One quick backdrop piece. You're gonna hear a mom's voice on here. She's an Idahoan. Her husband's a doctor. They moved here to serve a rural community. And their child ended up having needs that, as they say, this kid's needs outstripped our parenting skills. So you'll hear her voice in the background.
So imagine being a young person and your therapy hasn't worked. Right? You've tried different things, your family's tried different things, your family's struggling to find the answer, and the answer that comes for you to deal with your trauma is for you to be sent to another state.
We have had placements in Texas, Arkansas, Florida, and now Nebraska.
This adds one more trauma on top of the trauma that these kids have already experienced. I'm Scott Curtis, and I have the privilege of being the CEO of Idaho Youth Ranch, and also the privilege of working on this project to transform 250 acres into Idaho's residential facility for our kids. The young people in Idaho are part of some pretty alarming statistics. Almost 100% of the young people that come to Idaho Youth Ranch for our services have experienced some sort of childhood trauma. Having substance abuse in the home, being abused, having an incarcerated family member, having mental illness in the home. And that's when the scale really turns against a kid in terms of the outcomes. The great thing about it is the research shows that we actually can treat the trauma as long as we treat it relatively soon. If we can get them the right kind of therapy with the right caring adults, they don't become a part of the correlation between trauma and negative life outcomes. We are so excited to be bringing the residential program of Idaho Youth Ranch back to Idaho. Idaho Youth Ranch provides more than 6 decades of experience of meeting the needs of Idaho's young people in residential care. We found a way to make the ranch 100% sustainable. We're proud to do that for Idaho, That's the way Idahoans take care of things. So what we're building is a 64-bed facility with everything needed to provide 24-hour care for these young people. Be that nursing, the therapeutic center, year-round school, recreation center, dining hall, 4 residential wings that will be made to feel like home for these young people while they're here. But we also have equine therapy and stables, and animal husbandry is built into the program. We have the streams and the ponds and the forest, all are part of this 258-acre campus. The place itself will help nurture hope, healing, and resilience. So their lives can be whole and productive for all of us.
So a few things, we have closed our range in River. This is our flagship program, and we're moving it here to Middleton. We also want to be having as many youth-serving collaborations on this property as possible. We really think this is Idaho's property for youth for youth-serving organizations, and that includes the school district. We've talked about many things that can happen there, whether it's using the trails or team building, work with equine, as well as just access to outpatient counseling and things like that we'll provide. We already have some partners operating there. Others have used the campus, whether it's Boy Scouts or Camp Rainbow Gold or veterans groups and others. Next slide. Let's go maybe a couple. And one more. So this is going to be state-of-the-art treatment for youth, an accredited facility for kids ages 11 to 17. 64 beds can serve kids of all backgrounds, individual and group therapy. This was all mentioned in the video, including a year-round school, and we really like to talk about collaborating on the education piece. Next slide. In terms of the school, what we know we need to have for these young people is a year-round school. They'll come at all different times during the year. They're not going to enter as a cohort in September and leave in January and May. So we need to be able to treat kids. We need to help them with credit recovery. It's going to have kids from all over the state, right? Some of the kids from all of the states that have some of the highest needs. We know it needs to be on campus as part of the therapeutic program and be integrated. We're already building it as part of the construction project. So we've taken that on as part of our capital campaign to build a school. And obviously, some of the things we'll have to do. Critical to this is successful transition to the home school districts. The goal of the ranch is not to have young people come there and love it and want to stay there. The goal is to help them transition home, right, with their families to their schools, and be what they want to be too, which is at home operating well. All right, just about done. Some of you may know the property. It's on El Paso Road, and it's really a phenomenal piece. And one of the most beautiful things about it is it's got some aspect of just about every part of Idaho. It's got streams, it's got ponds, it's got forests, it's got active ag land, it's got pasture. We're really excited about that aspect. The campus is 258 acres, so there's a lot of space to do a lot of things. We're constructing this on about 12 acres. So that gives you a sense of really how much space there is for collaboration. And I think with that, I will pause and see if there's any questions you'd like me to answer right now.
Do you have the school set up in a way? I mean, do you have a plan for that with teachers and all that, and then a transition plan ready to go? Or is that just going to kind of come as it's built?
We have an outline of the school plan. Some of these we know the school needs to have involved with it. And we are currently working to hire the education leader. We're looking for a pretty passionate person that wants to work with youth like this. So we need to get all of that stuff in place,
Okay.
right? Long before the school opens. Once the school opens, the whole residential program is not going to bring in 64 kids on the first day, right? It's going to bring in 8 the first month, and then grow by another 8, and then grow by another 8. So we will transition somewhat that way. Am I answering your question?
Yes. I just wondered kind of where you were at. I knew this, you're building it now, right?
We are building the campus, and we're building the buildings right now. We've got the footings poured. So we're building the classrooms.
Did you happen to say when you felt like it was going to be done?
Yeah, so construction's underway. Right now, we're supposed to get occupancy in January of next year. That may slip. You all probably know there's some things going on in the world of construction, but we're pretty excited about it. They've been able to hit all their timelines so far.
I just gonna comment that I drove by there today. I'm very familiar with that property. I have been for many years, the old Simplot place. It used to be a 9-hole golf course and stuff. But it's a wonderful thing what you guys are doing, and the big barn that's there, that's kind of like the horse barn that's already there, right?
Well, there are two things, so I'm not sure which one you were seeing. There is a large horse barn. There's also a large equine center. It's an indoor equine arena. And that's where we do equine therapy year round.
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic facility and really nice property. So I just wish you guys luck and hope we can do whatever we can to help you guys.
So one of the things that I would welcome is if anyone who hasn't seen the property or heard more about the program, we'd be delighted to take you.
Could we come?
Susan
Yes.
does that. She's there every day. I come out frequently, and it's hard to understand it without walking the property.
And I can coordinate that with board members and Susan to set some times that you could go out there. And Lisa and I have been out there ourselves to take a look as well. Could you speak just really quickly to the level, like the grade level, age level of students that would be attending? And if they have special education backgrounds, is there any limitation to what kind of students might be brought to the school?
Oh, great question. So first of all, ages 11 through 17 for this program. So roughly middle school and high school age. We expect that the majority of the young people have some level of an IEP 504 plan, so we'll be providing for special education. We think that there will be some limit in terms of intellectual functioning. We won't be able to go below a certain IQ level in order for this to be an impactful program in terms of the learning that needs to take place. Let's see, Mark, what else did you ask?
No, that was it. That was
No.
perfect. And as I'd indicated to you as board members, if we were to go down this road and there's some opportunities that we could have to support their educational program doesn't have any financial obligation on our part. And as we go down this road, we can start getting more details, but felt like it was more important to get an idea of what it is out there, and going out there and kind of looking at what they've got will be a helpful piece to that.
That would be great as well. Yeah. We're not expecting this to be anything but a positive impact on the school districts around the state. We're not taking a whole bunch of students from one district and reducing their funding. Some of these will be some of the higher need students that they've been working with, and we hope to work seamlessly with them to get them back.
One kid at a time, right? Thank you.
You bet. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate it. And thank you, Susan, for coming.
Yes, thank you.
Look forward to seeing you.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, we'll move on to the levy update and meeting dates.
Okay.
That'll be you, Mark.
Yep. So we're moving on starting to get that information out for our levy over this last weekend. We did have booths at every building during parent-teacher conference, had handouts there. This handout, which I don't know what happened to that when we shifted it to that PDF, but it looked better on the one that they handed out. I gotta get that fixed. But anyway, we handed these out as well as voter registration. And we gave them information about absentee ballots. So those were going throughout. We saw a lot of people pick up the voter registration. We do have, and I would just make a kind of a public plea to our parents, community members, please register to vote. Right now, before this weekend, only about 20% of our parents were registered
Students
to
in
vote.
here, ask your parents if they're registered to vote.
And
Pressure.
we're trying to be really cautious to meet the legal requirements for putting that kind of information out, to make sure, because we can't say you should or shouldn't vote for this. We have to say, this is what it is, and this is what we're asking for, and encourage all to vote.
So would you just tell me again what you just said? 20%?
22% of the parents within our school
registered
district
to
are
vote.
registered voters.
Are registered.
Are.
So-
So there's 78% that still need to be.
Okay.
So, and that's something that we're gonna continue to to work on and try to encourage our parents and community members, because it is, I mean, we want this vote to be a representation of the community.
Yes.
And we can't do that if they're not registered to vote. So one of the keys is that as we do help people get registered to vote, that we're encouraging all, not just who we think are going to vote yes, on it. It's for everybody so that we get a good feel. So anyway, we did that over the weekend. I've started having meetings with all of our school faculties just so that they have an idea of what's there in those, in the levy. We started some of those last week. We'll finish them up next week by Wednesday. And then we've got two meeting dates that we're looking at that will be more general, kind of a formal presentation, and not everybody wants to go to something like that, but we'll hold them just to give people the opportunity if they'd like to. We're looking at February 23rd and March 1st for those dates, where we'll get the times and locations as we get closer. And then for sure on February 22nd, I mean, I shouldn't say for sure. Assuming we don't have any meltdowns within the boys basketball season, we should be hosting some of the district tournament games.
Okay.
And we'll have a booth at least on the 22nd and possibly also on the 19th. We should be hosting both of those games. And as long as we are, we'll have a booth there. That'll be a more informal setting. We'll have information there, but it'll be more, if people want to stop by and ask questions, I'll be there to answer questions. We'll have other people as well to answer questions. We'll be we're working with Vicki Holbrook to get information onto our website. As we get closer, we'll start putting things out on social media, on our social media sites. If there are other social media sites that are wanting to get some information, I'd encourage them to
Please.
get some information from me. I can give them whatever they'd like to see. And then we should have our website up, that part of our website up this week. We're trying to get a calculator set. We had one previously, but we were trying to get the new numbers in right now. But a calculator where people can put in their home values and it can calculate, an estimate for what it would cost them. So anyway, that's kind of where we're headed. Before we meet again, the vote will have occurred. So if there's anything that you feel like, if you see an opportunity, I've also reached out to the Chamber of Commerce to present with them, as well as with members of our city council, to make sure they're understanding kind of how we're looking at both the levy and our possible bonds that come forward.
That's very good.
Any questions?
I think it's really important to help everybody understand that the levy comes every 2 years, that each student gets a certain amount per capita from the state, and the levy is a local way for us to make up the extra, and it pays for all the stuff listed on that presentation. That it helps add more to our budget to pay teachers. It allows us to upgrade curriculum. It helps us to make sure that we don't have a bunch of extra money that's paid by the students to play sports. And this isn't something new. It's not something magical. It's completely different from a bond. A bond builds schools. This helps run schools. And I just think that distinction is super important. And it comes every 2 years. This isn't anything new. It's nothing sprung on everybody. But the city and the school doesn't have the ability to just automatically levy a tax, or as builders come in to impose a building fee or anything like that. This is the only way for a school to raise additional funds above and beyond what the state gives us per kid to run the school. So it allows us to run it better and get these kind of results where we're graduating 92% of our folks, our kids, and we're number one in our conference. That's pretty amazing.
Great.
Yeah, and it's amazing that it's only half the cost of what it was just 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
It is.
Any other questions or comments on how we're moving on that?
Who are you having at these booths?
At the school,
besides yourself?
well, at the schools, it was mainly just handing things
Oh,
to people
okay.
for the parent-teacher conference. But at these other booths, it will be me and, Lisa will be there for some of them, anyone we can get to be a part, but I'll be there for, those to answer
So we
questions.
could volunteer?
Yes,
Okay.
certainly, board members, we just can't have more than 2 of you at a time.
All right.
Yep. Okay,
Thank you. We'll move on. Anything else? We're good? Let's move on to item F. Approval of cost for survey and bond consultation.
okay, so, and I just realized that I failed to attach this to, the documentation, so I'll read through part of this. But essentially, this is us contracting with an outside company to help us work through a survey to identify with registered voters what projects resonate with them. We've done some very preliminary work on that, but to get the kind of specificity on that survey, we need to hire some outside help to get that done. It's within, as far as legalities, it's within the school district's purview to be able to incur those costs for this kind of survey. And so the company is Facility Planners. It's run by Rich Bauscher. And I'm just going to go through the fees part of it, the scope of services and the fees. So the Facility Planners will construct a survey instrument and subcontract with firm to make calls for the Middleton School District 134 as described. And it's been essentially going through registered voters, making sure that we're getting an idea from them what they would be willing to vote for. And that'll help us as we really nail down, these are the projects we want to be able to do. The compensation shall be a fixed fee of $5,050. This fee will include 2 parts, providing 10 hours of time between January and March 2022, just to organize and gather information for the surveys. But the majority of that will be coming in the actual administration of the survey, making calls to homes and gathering that data to present the survey results to the school board. And so that will come when we have those results, they'll actually come and present that to you as a school board. The timing of that survey, we'd be looking at right after spring break. We had talked about trying to do that before March, end of February, beginning of March, but we felt like that might confuse with the levy that we're trying to run, and people might think, having received a call about a survey, that they were going to go and vote for this bond that we had just talked to them about on the phone. So wanted to avoid that. And then if we went after too far, it got into spring break. So we felt like going after spring break would be the appropriate time. And so those are the main pieces to that proposal. Any questions on what we're asking for there? Okay, so that during the action items, that will be another thing that the board will need to approve.
Okay. Item G, superintendent evaluation review, which we will start doing.
So I'll if I can walk through
Please
the
do
process.
it. Yes.
So there were several documents that you received in this portion. Now, essentially, you as a school board are my evaluator. And so this is a way that is consistent with what our teachers go through and our other administrators go through. But there are 3 main documents. One is my individual professional learning plan, which I had set specific goals with you as a board earlier in this school year. And I can go through those goals with you on how I am going as far as achieving those. But then the other part, there's one that's called a framework that has, let's see. Lisa, is that something you can bring up? There. So this right here, the Middleton School District Superintendent Evaluation Framework, if you'll scroll up just to one of those, It separates the things that you can essentially rate me on into different categories. And so this first one is school culture. And you can see there, it lists out what it would look like if it was unsatisfactory, basic, proficient, or distinguished. And then can you bring up the score sheet? So what you'll have is that framework and then this score sheet, which corresponds to each piece. And so essentially what I would be a way to do this evaluation would be for you to go through, mark those as you see it work applying to me, and then write in any comments you want in the side there. And then once you've done that, you can deliver those to Gina. Gina will compile those and then hand them to Pam so that in our next meeting in March during the executive session, you could conduct my evaluation. To help with that, I delivered you the survey result. Well, I didn't, Gina did.
Yes, you did.
Gina delivered the survey results to you. And those were open for Monday through Saturday of last week. Open to all employees. And so you can look through that. That can possibly help you as you're making your determinations. If you have specific questions on anything as you're going through and saying, okay, could you tell me what you've done here or there? That's appropriate to give me a call in the middle, but it's up to you as a board to make those ratings as you see appropriate. And then it's typically what would happen, you as a board during executive session would excuse me.
Mhm.
You would have your conversation, you talk about the things you want to discuss with me, then you'd invite me back in and deliver to me the results of the evaluation. And that would be this time of year is when you can expect to do that for me as a superintendent each year. And the reason we do it now instead of at the end is that and this is not where I want any of you to go, but
We don't want to either.
if you were to decide that I was not the one that you wanted to continue leading the district, you would want to be able to do that in that time frame so that you have time to make any decisions after that. But any questions on what would be expected of you as board members in that evaluation? So I think what would be best would be for you to establish just a time frame for getting those results to Gina,
Okay,
just so that she can have time to.
how much time do you need, Gina?
By the end of the month, maybe?
Yeah.
Would that be
A
fine?
week or a week?
Probably, yeah.
So maybe the end of the month, February 28th, you guys could get those in.
Do you think that'd be enough time for you guys to run through all this?
Well, I just, on your completion of your goals.
Yes.
On that,
I can go through that right now.
Oh.
That's what I'll do
Okay.
right now, so you can kind of see where I'm at on those.
No,
No, you're good.
please ask questions.
So February 28th would work for you?
Either week after.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll just run quickly through this. This is pretty simple. The first goal, conduct a stakeholder needs assessment, assessing stakeholder perspectives, concerns, and suggestions regarding instruction, facilities, bonds, levies, and extra programming. All of that has been completed. Each of those action items has been completed. We completed those in November and December of last year. So that has been done. Goal number 2, complete the Middleton School District strategic plan. The goal for this is to be done to have a draft to give to you by March. I'm going to guess that that's going to be closer to April that
Okay.
we'll get that to you. But we've had both facilities, strategic planning meetings, and the academic planning meetings. We've started that process in both areas. So we're moving along. We've conducted the needs assessment and gathered the committee and organized the committee. So now we're just in that last action step for that goal. Goal 3, participate actively in at least 85% of the SIC IASA meetings and at least one community organization per month. I have gone to all of those SIC meetings. That's with other superintendents from the SIC, as well as all of the IASA, which is all of Region 3 superintendents. In terms of community meetings, I've been able to attend multiple city council meetings, 3 or 4 chamber of commerce meetings so far, 1 fire district meeting. I'll be heading actually up to Star to their city council meeting tomorrow night. There's a large development that's going to straddle both school districts. And so I'll be heading up there to offer input on what they're doing up there. So I believe I'm meeting that, but it's, we'll see by the end of the year. So anyway, those are those goals, where I'm at on those.
Is there any issues where Cindy and I are just brand new to this that we have to like do something different with the survey?
Nope, you can, and all I would say is ask questions. You can ask them of me, you can ask them of the other board members who've been here. Either way is appropriate, just whatever you feel is.
Is there any place where if we haven't seen it, or
Yes.
can we say NA?
Yes,
or-
there is an
Okay.
NA on that score
On
sheet.
that
So
score
if that
sheet.
doesn't, if
Oh,
if it's
okay.
not something that you've seen
Oh, yep,
the last
Okay.
one. So,
thank you.
and that's totally appropriate to do that, and just you can even put a little comment by it if you need to, but, again, I want to direct in the resources you have to complete it, but not direct you in how to fill it out, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Here's just a simple question. Do you have to get all those printed yourself or we?
I did print them all myself.
But we can
We
print
can
them out
have, we know a lady that.
Gina would do that for you,
Okay.
so yeah.
Gina's a rock.
Yeah, okay. I just didn't want to like miss the boat. on
No, you
that.
didn't miss the boat. That's just
Okay.
me.
All right.
Any other questions on the? Yeah.
No, it's perfect. But if there's anything you guys ever need printed before the meeting, just let Gina know. She'll have it ready for you.
Perfect, yeah.
So, thank you, Mark.
Okay.
Let's move on to policy review.
I'm gonna turn that over to Lisa.
Go ahead, Lisa.
So when you look in your packets, there are policy A, D, and E. We haven't made any recommendations to change since that first reading. And so if you remember correctly, those 3 are to update some old policies that were out to date with current law. And so we've just updated dates in that, and then that would eliminate those old policies that are no longer in compliance and bring these 3 new ones in. Then policy B and C, if you look at those, we have made a few recommendations on those policies for you to review. And so you'll see the recommendations, and I'll pull this over just so you can talk through that. So with 4210P, you'll see here just in red some of the changes we've made since the first reading that we would recommend moving forward for the second reading.
I think they're trying to bring those up. Are you?
Right?
I'm on 4. It'll come up, yeah.
Yeah.
Second.
4210P is what she's on right now.
And you're skipping B, 4210?
I was gonna come back to it.
Okay,
Circle back.
thank you.
All right, go ahead.
So when you look at that, really, we felt it was important down under fees to add "and" the Middleton community to it, to make sure that that was explicitly stated. And then as we scroll down, we just wanted to be clear under school equipment that these would be stipulated in the fee schedule. So it
Okay,
was clear that there was another schedule that went with this, so that they would be aware of any potential charges there.
good.
We wanted to change the wording under supervision to may, so it leaves that option instead of will or shall.
Shall, yeah, I gotcha.
And then we needed to add under the outdoor facility usage, we wanted to make sure we included the building administration in that process as well. It used to say athletic director, but we felt like it was important to have the building administration oversee that, and then they will have the choice of when to bring the athletic director into that conversation
I
at
like
that point
Very good.
as well. And then the last item was adding number 6, just to make sure it was clear that if events are canceled, that we would reimburse any payments that were made.
That's nice, thank you. Looks good.
Any
So that's-
questions on 4210P?
And then 4210, let me pull it up. The reason I skipped over it first is just so then you could see, really there weren't a lot of recommendations to the wording there, but this is this is really the policy that guides that last one that we just saw. So this is more overarching. And there's two changes we wanted to make for recommendation in that second paragraph. We changed it from shall to may again. And then in that second to last paragraph, we wanted to make sure it said the building and district administration, to show that collaborative effort there.
Good.
So what that will mean is the first contact will be the building when they're trying to schedule. And then once the building has signed off on it, it'll come to the district for a verification.
So it's all in one spot and everybody is aware.
Yes.
Thank you. That is nice. And makes sense.
And we felt like these recommendations moving forward to the next reading really fit in the goal that the board has presented forward to make it more community friendly as well with the facilities.
Very good. Anybody have questions? Now, when we make the motion, we have to motion them specifically.
You can do it in one motion, but each number has to be mentioned specifically
All right,
And the
I would
motion's to
entertain a
move
motion.
To a third.
to a third reading.
yes. I
And then
would,
if there were anybody that wanted to pull one of those out, not that that's the case this time, but if you wanted to pull one of those out in the discussion phase before it's voted on, you'd want to have that.
Do
okay.
we have to go to a third? Can we vote on it? I mean, if it looks good now, can we vote on it to?
We do have the ability to waive the third reading
Except for on those rental facilities, because those are new.
because we added those additions. Those other three, so policy 1200.
A, D, and B,
Yeah.
A, D, and E.
Yeah.
A, D, and E are all updates,
So we can just.
but B and C are actually new policies.
Right, okay,
And so those have to go to a third reading,
So we could have two motions.
if you'd like.
okay.
You follow that?
Yeah.
So A, D, and E, but you can't say A, D, and E. I would entertain a motion or two.
Are you gonna do all of them? I have a question on 7110.
Oh, bring that one up.
Go ahead.
On number 3, where it says listing of warrants describing goods and services for which payment has been made must be presented for the board. Is that what we get from Krista? Or not Krista, Alicia, gosh, sorry, I'm glad she's not.
She is.
You are here.
She's okay.
Alicia, are those listed on that report,
Can I ask
monthly
Lisa?
report?
Can I ask Alicia to answer?
Please.
Alicia, do you want to?
Are the warrants listed on the monthly report? No, the monthly report is just a breakdown per fund, per account number.
This is the overall budget though, that this policy is referring to.
To the whole thing.
The whole thing, not each
Okay.
individual. So it's really more directed towards what's happens at the end of this school year in planning for next school year. That's
So
what
you're
this
able
is.
to look at what you might want to set your budget for next year
Correct,
on
Alicia?
describing whatever goods. Is there a place to look at what is being purchased?
Like a detail ledger?
Yeah.
I can dig those out.
Oh, okay. All right. Then the next one, number 4, is it just state of Idaho that do we have to be sure to make? It says purchases shall be made according to the legal requirements of state of Idaho and adopted by the board policy.
So that would be
So-
Idaho state law, would it?
So
Yeah,
is
state
that
law.
just the
That-
law?
And that's gonna include anything, because state law in education also is gonna refer to those federal laws for the
Right.
federal, so your special ed, your
So
Title
you'll
I,
be able
all
to
of that.
Find out federal money.
Yeah,
Okay.
fits within that.
I thought so, but I just want to make
Yeah,
sure.
it's
Thank
a
you.
good thing to make sure of.
Thanks for asking. All right, I still would entertain maybe two motions?
I make a motion that we adopt policy 1200, policy 7100, and policy 7100 B budget, implementation execution moving forward.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
And so just to be clear, you're moving it to policy.
We're moving it to policies.
Yeah.
Correct.
All of
They're
these.
waiting.
No,
No.
just 1200,
A,
7100,
D, and E.
and 7110, sorry, 7110.
And we can get your reading.
Because these other two,
You don't have to.
they made
Change
changes,
it.
so we need to do one more.
Wording.
So discussion, is that where I can talk?
I said, is there any discussion? Go ahead.
On the 1200 policy, as far as the organization meeting, I don't want to make it sound like, I mean, we came in brand new. It just seemed like everything happened all at once. And so, I mean, the minute we sat down, so is there any way for next time? I know where it says call for nominations of chair, election of chair, the vice chair, et cetera. It was fine, but it just happened so quickly that, is that something that new board members should come in and talk to Gina, you?
It
Mark?
probably would, and I think typically what would have happened is the board chair, the current board
Oh,
chair,
that's right.
would have reached out to the new board members to explain what was going on. But because that board chair and the vice chair both had been,
Yes, we promised we weren't leaving
replaced,
now.
it wasn't
No other way to
appropriate.
do it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there is,
Yeah.
There was no other way to do it.
Okay, you just held your feet to the fire, that's
Yeah.
all, you did good.
It wouldn't have been appropriate for any of the remaining board members to take that on themselves
I
and
see.
say, I'm gonna reach out to them because they're not in those positions of chair or vice chair.
Okay,
So that it doesn't typically happen, but that's why it was done. So normally, it would not be like that. There
That's
would be
why we all felt that way.
conversations.
Okay, no, I just felt like it just happened in a whirlwind and I just went along with I, and
Welcome to politics.
I just,
It's okay, that's how I felt my first board meeting, so don't feel bad.
okay.
But I
That's
think
exactly how I felt,
In the future, it will be much more,
yes.
you'll be a part of that
Okay.
whole process.
So I don't know
Yes.
how you felt about it.
Oh, it puts so much faith in these other guys.
I just did.
They know what they're doing.
Okay, thank you.
It's the blind leading the blind.
So, and no more discussion on that
No.
motion. All in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye. 5-0, Gina. All right. I would entertain another motion.
Yeah, just being.
So we would move
To
to
move to a third reading.
get
A third reading for B, policy 4210, and C, policy 4210B, due to the changes.
Second.
We'll call it a motion.
Did I say motion?
You did, nope, it
It was
was,
close
yes, so
enough.
did you hear that? She made the motion. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Very good, we're there. Thank you.
Okay.
And we'll move on to action items. We need to, is there any more discussion about the track? I would entertain a motion if anybody's ready to make a motion.
I would move to approve the track bid, giving some latitude to the schools for up to 170, 165
If you could just mention.
through the track doctor.
Yep.
Based on the results of the research.
I would second that.
Very good. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 That one passes 5-0. And, action item B, any more discussion about costs for bond consultation?
no, I make a motion that we go ahead and approve the funds to facilitate the survey for the bonds consultation.
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right,
Aye. It's okay.
Trying to go ahead.
It's okay. 5-0 there. And now we are going to move to executive session, but all you students, you are going to be excused, but please bring your papers up so we can sign them for you.
So do we just sign it?
Yep, we just sign it. You can bring it up to any of us. It's wherever.
Next race.
Thank you.
In 2 weekends in Arizona.
Yep, anywhere is good.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
You bet.
You bet.
You bet.
Glad you guys made it here.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Yes, thank you.
We don't want to
Be really nice.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Come back
I'll
for a
keep
teacher,
it.
keep it.
Okay.
She's gonna go home and copy it. Thank you. Oh,
Thank you for your.
why, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Usually I'm like, hurrying.
I was like, I hope there's a spoon up
Yes,
there.
I saw it.
It's not gonna help you, but
Yeah.
I needed to know.
Thank you for the presentation.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you.
I'm very excited about that.
Be in touch.
Appreciate it.
So I make a motion that we,
Oh, it might be good to explain.
Yes,
Oh, sorry.
this is a
So-
learning moment for
Yeah.
these two.
so
Yeah.
whenever we're discussing like confidential things or names of
Personnel.
people specifically, we move into this executive session. So, anytime we're dealing with staff, anytime.
And we are still live.
We're still live, so you've got to make the motion and
And
read it
anytime we
exactly.
deal, like when we deal with his reviews and things like that, we're gonna move into executive session.
And so when we go into that, they're very nice. And do you see all the wording right here on A? You just read that whole thing and you'll be golden.
And then when the vote comes, the vote has to be made individually. Pam will call your name and you have to say,
That's what Gina will call us.
oh, Gina.
Gina does
Gina will
roll call.
call. And it's just a very particular process for moving into executive session.
All right,
Okay.
so.
So I move that pursuant to, or as per section 74-2061B of Idaho Code, to consider the evaluation, dismissal, or disciplining, or to hear the complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employer, staff member, or individual agent, that we enter executive session.
A second.
All right, Gina.
Roll call vote.
Yep.
Call.
Trustee Moore,
Yes.
trustee Dempsey,
Yes.
trustee Wagner,
Yes.
trustee Powell,
Yes.
trustee Clark,
Yes. That's good.